Hi, my name is Matthias, and this is my video for the class of technology in the global arena. Today, I will talk about the arguments and counter-arguments for being a vegetarian, since I find the topic super interesting. Also, I didn't know what to do for my video, so here's my trip to New York for spring break during their blizzard. I'll also talk about it randomly throughout the video because it was pretty cool. Alright, so my first argument for vegetarianism is pretty simple. It's that there's no necessity to eat meat aside from the taste or enjoyment. For example, let's say there's this guy called Bob, and he is a college student and a part-time worker. At some point in his day, when he gets hungry and needs to eat a meal, ideally with many nutrients like protein, iron, vitamins, and whatever else you need, a friend recommends Bob to cook and eat a quick vegetarian meal, perhaps including like lentils, chickpeas, rice, and some greens. Then Bob interjects his friend's request and says that he also would like to eat some meat so that he could obtain its nutrients and because he likes it. Bob's friend rebuttals and says that Bob's desire to eat meat is entirely rooted in seeking the taste and pleasure, since every nutrient included in meat can be outsourced from a non-meat source, rendering his decision to get nutrients from meat optional. Further, the friend could state that perhaps the only reason to eat meat, since nutrients are optional, is based on enjoyment, which seems pretty cruel to further animal suffering because we enjoy their meat. That is assuming that the animal did suffer. Real quick as well, there was like this huge snowball fight in the middle of like Washington Square Garden, I think, and it was pretty cool. There were these guys making some people out of snow on the benches, and yeah, it was super fun. And then there was like I think Casey Neistat was out there during this time, so it was pretty cool. Now, the counter-argument for vegetarianism, specifically regarding this argument, is that not everyone can afford to exclude meat from their diet. For example, as previously stated, Bob is a college student and a part-time worker. Bob most likely will not have the time to spare to cook fully planned meals, and probably doesn't have the money to support it either. This doesn't make meat required, since there are still non-meat alternatives, but it does provide an opportunity for Bob to be healthy, which is important since even in this class we establish being healthy is good in general and good for society. All right, for my second argument for vegetarianism, we're going to assume that it's good to cause as little suffering as possible as being true. So basically, to explain, the raising of animals in massive captivity, especially through industrial animal agriculture, causes mass suffering that is preventable. Because of this, it's best to avoid the suffering for animals, especially on such a mass scale, since it's good to cause as little suffering as possible. Thus, it's best not to support animal agriculture until there's a humane treatment of animals. So for example, with Bob again, Bob wants to eat a meal with healthy nutrients, and the same friend tells Bob that purchasing animal products only perpetuates mass suffering by supporting mass production of animal agriculture, which is bad. Quick side note again, this is from the Natural History Museum, like right next to Central Park. Yeah, pretty cool. So a counter-argument to the notion that it's good to cause as little suffering as possible is that a single person choosing not to eat meat and to support animal suffering does not make an impact in such a large system. For example, Bob could refute by saying him choosing not to eat meat will not change, improve, nor deprive the animal suffering in animal agriculture. And by Bob refusing to purchase some steak in a store only means that same steak will be purchased by another person instead. There we have it. Those are my two arguments for and against vegetarianism. If you like this video, please grade it good, and thank you.